Hello, everybody. Hello, poofs. This is me. This is Jasmine. I am here. This is something to sip on right now. I'm gonna do a therapist review on Queen and Slim, and this is not wine. This is something a little bit not darker, I guess. It's Kahlua, cream de cacao, and then like a coffee flavored vodka. It's very good, and I feel like I needed something to kind of help ease my nerves a little bit before talking about the movie and just kind of what I garnered from it. I really do feel like it's a commentary on Black trauma and the different ways people can express their trauma. So I'm just gonna hit like key points in the movie. I'm not gonna like go through piece by piece, blow by blow. I'm just gonna go like happen in the beginning, the main things, and then the middle, and then the end, and stuff like that. So stay tuned. I might talk all the way through it, or I might do like a cut, like I usually do a cut and do sections. Just kind of depends on how I'm feeling. But if you have any issues with alcohol or it's triggering for you, don't watch. I need it. The movie was triggering for me. It's not that it was a bad movie. It was more so just a lot to take in. That's what I'll say. So yeah, stay tuned. Okay, so Queen and Slim, I would say I would add, it's not just Black trauma, but it's like a commentary on Black love too. So Queen and Slim, I'm looking off my phone because I suck with names. It was written by Lena Waithe, director Melina Matsoukas, I think that's how you say her name. And then the stars of the movie, Daniel Kaluuya, hopefully that's somewhere in there, it's right. And then Jodie Turner-Smith. Daniel is Slim, Jodie's Queen. So, you know, the movie starts off, it's a Tinder date. Tinders, no. I just had experiences. So it's a Tinder date that Queen, they're never called Queen and Slim in the movie, but I'm just gonna call them that because it's easier than their actual names. I forgot their actual names in the movie. You can look it up, IMDb. So, in the movie, Queen and Slim are on a Tinder date at a diner. You know, Queen is kind of, you know, was getting those strong Black woman, angry Black woman vibes off of her. She just seemed very defensive and things throughout the day. Daniel, the actor's name, Slim. Slim came off more of like a homebody, like he has a loving family, it sounds like. You know, he cohabits Black-owned businesses. You know, he seems more settled and down to earth. So we're on this date. Queen is just very standoffish. She was just like, I don't really want to be here, but she's a defense attorney, and I forgot what Slim did. I think he mentioned it. I think he worked at the welfare office or something. So Queen is, you know, having a bad night. She just lost a case where her client got the death penalty, basically. I think that's what it was, death penalty or something. And so, you know, she's feeling really down. She has no friends, she has no family, she's by herself. And so she just picked a random guy off Tinder to hang out with because she didn't want to be alone. So off the bat, I'm just kind of like, okay, I guess we're gonna be, you know, that angry Black woman kind of thing. But as we get through the movie, they do kind of expand on what's going on with her and her traumas and things like that, and why she's the way she is. And actually, it kind of unfolded pretty well, where she was able to kind of express and, you know, open up about her traumas, even though, you know, it was very difficult for her. And it was just kind of on this adventure it went on that ended up very badly. I didn't like the ending at all. But I'm a happy ending type person. I like to go to the movies and see people, you know, I go to for fantasy. Real life is depressing. I see too many people that have all these issues every day. Anyway, so, you know, angry, upset, not very trusting, but, you know, she's still trying. She's still out there talking to this guy, and, you know, they get in the car to leave. He gets pulled over by the cop. Cop is racist, obviously. He wants to search his car. Slim lets him. That actor's name. Slim lets him, whatever. And of course, Queen's just in the car like she's a lawyer. She's trying to tell the cop, like, you know, you need a warrant, all this other stuff. But of course, you know, Slim just allowed him to search his car, whatever, you know, keep safe. So the cop gets upset because Slim basically said he was cold and he was wondering how long the cop would take. Very politely, you know, stuttered a little bit, was kind of cute. So the cop flips out, makes him get on the ground. Queen gets out of the car, gets shot in the leg, Slim. And so there's a tussle that ensues. Slim ends up with the gun, shoots the cop, they're on the run. So, you know, over the course of this on the run part, we're learning, you know, Queen still is staying very standoffish, doesn't trust Slim, is kind of like, you know, let's just get boom, 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 let's do this so that we can get away. So his uncle, you know, in New Orleans, they get down there and basically we find out that, you know, there's this whole family dynamic where the uncle killed Queen's mother. So then we kind of go back to, that made me kind of go back mentally to the diner scene. I'm just like, okay, so there is family trauma here. There is, you know, she's very flat affect, you know, flat face, monotone voice, you know, when she's talking about what happened. And she's just kind of very flat overall emotionally. And it makes me think of my clients that, you know, they've experienced so much trauma that they just kind of disassociate emotionally. And, you know, they don't get very hyped up, you know, they're just very flat about everything. And, you know, I think she played that part well because that's kind of how it is in real life. Some clients, you know, that is their safety place where they go to in their mind to disassociate from their emotions and just look towards the goal of fixing everything and stuff like that. So that was interesting that, you know, it made me go back to the beginning and I'm like, okay, this is why she doesn't trust people. The way she dealt with that was to get away from her family and isolate herself. So isolation based off trauma, and then disassociating yourself emotionally based off of trauma. And then, you know, she says that she got her uncle off. That was her first case in court. So her uncle shoots her mom, but she got him off. But then you don't ever talk to this man again. So it's kind of made me think of those cycles of trauma and family where you still feel like you have to cover for the family members, even though they've done some heinous stuff, like the uncle that's a child molester, the cousin that's a drug addict. We're still trying to cover for these people because, you know, in the Black community, we have this sense of family and, you know, needing to take care of our family. So that was very interesting because it kind of explained just some of her emotional inability to trust people. Like, I don't trust people, but I'm still going to help people. I'm just not going to let them help me. You know, I'm not going to let them get close to me. I'm just going to kind of stay away because people, when they get close to you, they kill your mom and in a drunken rage and knock her downstairs on accident. You know, accident. When I'm drunk, I don't do that. So, you know, I'm just kind of like, I mean, you know, if there's rage issues, why drink to exacerbate it? You know, but then if you don't know about mental health and trauma in families and your triggers and what makes you tick and things like that and why you're doing the things you're doing, then of course, you know, you're just gonna drink to feel better and do drugs to feel better. And I think he went to war and he had PTSD too, so I don't know, they didn't really get into his history of, you know, mental health and seeking out services and therapy and stuff. And they didn't really get into hers either. I just kind of felt like, here's another example of Black trauma where we don't even mention therapy. We don't even mention, like, we needed help with this, but because we went through it so many times with so many different people, it's kind of like you start to feel like, well, what would a therapist do, you know? So I guess I can understand it, you know, you keep doing the same thing over and over again. It's a cycle. That's why it's called cycles of trauma. Anything that's cyclical makes me side-eyed a little bit. Like, why is this a cycle? Why is this a circle? So it makes sense. So let me see. Next, what happens? So the uncle lets them take his car, and he gives them some money, and then the car breaks down and they end up in some other, what is it, city? I think they end up in Georgia. They end up in Georgia at a mechanic. The mechanic knows who they are. You know, this is like, it's like some Underground Railroad thing going on too, where all the black people in the South kind of know who they are. So when they end up there, they're just kind of like, oh, okay, well, you know, we're going to help you and not tell nobody. The mechanic doesn't agree with them, but he helps them. And in order for them to get his help, he's going to take a while, and they're hovering around the car because they don't trust him. So what he does is he allows them to take his son on a walk so that they can feel comforted by the fact that, you know, he gave them something of value, so he won't snitch on them or mess up their car or something like that. So they take the son, and the son is just like gung-ho about being immortal through death. He's like, you guys are so amazing. I want to be immortal. I want to die. And the first thing I'm thinking about is, this kid's depressed. Why is he so fascinated with dying? I mean, for me, it just felt kind of like this just gave him out to kill himself. Because what happens later in the movie, we'll get to that. But this just gave him out to like kill himself, suicide by cop. That's how I felt. I felt it in my spirit as soon as he said immortal. And then he kept talking about death over and over and over and over. And I was just like, dude, why is nobody, because even Queen was like, well, you know, you have your family to make you feel immortal. And it just kind of cut off there. And I was just like, why is nobody asking him, well, why doesn't his family make him feel immortal? What's wrong with your family that you don't feel immortal with them? Why do you have to die and splatter your guts everywhere to feel immortal? What's going on? So this made me think of like black men and boys who experience mental health issues and depression and things like that, and how it usually shows not with necessarily sadness and melancholy mood. It usually comes out in aggression, anger, violent behavior, things like that. You know, society as a whole tells men they can't express their emotion. Then the black community doubles down on that and says men can't express their emotion. So it comes out a lot in rage and impulses. There you go. Impulses and all this other stuff. And you're just like, okay. So when I'm watching this, I'm like, this kid's depressed. You know, I don't want to diagnose, but it's a fake character. So I feel like if you're that fascinated with dying and being immortal, I want to know, why don't you feel immortal now? That's what the question I had. I was like, why don't you feel immortal right now instead of wanting to do something like this to feel immortal? You know, that's all I'm saying. That it didn't make sense. I mean, it made sense, but it was just kind of like, nobody's asking him the right questions. Nobody's noticing that there's something wrong with this kid. Nobody, they're just like, oh, well, you just trust in your family and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, hello? Y'all should at least tell his dad, like, hey, this kid was like, we was walking with him and he was talking about dying and being immortal and stuff like that. Like, okay, I know that we immortalize these black people that have been shot by the police and all this other stuff. But the thing is, like, the rates of suicide in black males have went up, and young black males, like between like 10 and 25 and things like that, have went up 60% since like, what, 2002 or something like that. So it's kind of like, hello, there's like little kids right now that are like 9 killing themselves. And so I felt it was a commentary on how trauma in families and societies can affect children. And then they end up being suicidal, and then that was his out. It was an extreme version, of course, because, you know, most kids aren't going to go up to, they're not going to do suicide by cop. Most kids aren't going to, so it's very extreme. I don't know why it had to be presented that way. Just kind of like, I mean, I guess I get it, but I don't. Because I feel like, you know, I mean, but then they say that when men kill themselves, it's more so of a violent way, gunshot to the head, hanging, you know, things like that. So, I mean, I guess, but I just felt like, I don't know. So, Queen and Slim leave. The garage. The next day, the boy goes to a protest, which makes no, because these Black Lives Matter protests are usually very peaceful, you know. They're not very violent like this that they were portraying. So I don't know where that was coming from or what that was about. But anyways, the boy ends up like antagonizing a police officer. And the police officer happens to be black. And the police officer's just like, go, leave, go do something, go home, go to your parents. And the boy's just like, shoot me. And I'm just like, he wants to die. Like, this child wants to die. Like, he wants to die. Like he wants to die. There's something wrong. It's not funny. It's just like, it's like it just, because I watched like a couple reviews before I did this, and it just like feels like it went over everybody's head that this kid might have some mental health issues. That's not an excuse for anything, because it's kind of like if you have the flu. You feel you're sick, then you need to go to the hospital. You know, most people can tell if they're depressed. They feel like something's off and they don't know what it is, but that's why there's therapists. So if you feel like something's wrong with you mentally and you just ride with it and think that it's normal or whatever, then at some point it's on you to the decisions that you make, you know. But you can give like kids a little leeway when it comes to self-harm and things, because they don't know unless they're told a lot of times. But we have a world full of good technology, so they should know. And a lot of times they're controlled by their parents because they need, consent and things like that until like 12. In California, they need consent from a parent to go to therapy by themselves until they're 12. Then they can just kind of walk in and like get their own therapy. So anyways, kids like, shoot me. And the cops is like, what are you talking about? Go home. So the kid pulls out a gun from his jacket and points it at the cop and blasts him in the face. And I was just like, they don't show the kid getting killed. At least I didn't see any of that. I didn't see him getting killed. But the cops shot the kid. The last scene I remember seeing was the kid just standing there holding the gun out with the cop on the ground, and then that was it. And then when they cut to a scene with Queen and Slim and someone else's house and on the Underground Railroad and whatever, and that was it. That was about it. So it just felt like, so the kid handled his trauma about being black, whatever was going on in his family, whatever his emotions are, he handled it by wanting to die and be immortalized. So at least somebody will notice me. That's what I was hearing. When he said be immortal, I heard somebody will notice me then. I'll be important then. But it's like, if you're not here to experience any of that, what does it matter? So yeah, that kid, that's how he handled it. So it's like interesting. So Queen handled her trauma by disassociating and, closing off from the world, but still wanting to help people, but not allowing anybody close. Slim is just kind of coming from this happy-go-lucky family, it sounds like, love black businesses, pro-black, and all this other stuff. So he doesn't seem to present with a lot of outward trauma until the police officer comes. Then he kind of like goes into the whole, okay, I need to do whatever this officer needs me to do so I don't die kind of mode. So he's not necessarily affected until, the police officer comes. So then what happens next? So they go to this like house with this white guy that their uncle hooked them up with. The police come and the white guy hides him underneath the bed and whatever. There's this like little catch on the floor underneath the bed. So they get out and they escape. This black cop sees them, lets them go and whatever. So the white guy gives them the address to, what is it? The guy that's supposed to hook them up with the airplane. Because the goal was they were going to get to Miami and fly out to Cuba from these people her uncle knew. So, they get to the guy that's supposed to fly them out, and they get to the plane, and then of course the police come, and it's like they get shot to death. I should have said spoilers in the beginning. I'll put it in the title. I'll say spoilers in the title. This YouTube thing's new to me. I'm just talking. I don't even make a script. I'd like write little notes and then I'm just like, okay, this is what I'm going to talk about and I'm going to ramble. And yeah. So they end up getting shot to death and it's just kind of like a part of me hoped for a happy ending, you know? A part of me hoped because I'm just tired. I mean, I'll get to that in a second. But anyway, so the guy that was supposed to hook them up with the plane snitched on him. And then that kind of has a commentary on how another, you know, area of the black community handles societal trauma as well as family trauma and things like that, is that they disassociate from it and don't care. You know, they're just used to all of this trauma to the point where they're like, okay, well, you know, I see it every day. This isn't going to stop. At least I can get my money. So, you know, that was interesting to see as well. Like, you got Queen. And it's interesting because Queen, on this trip, this is where we get into the black love part. On this trip, she is slowly becoming undone and learning how to deal with her pain based off of all the things she's going through. Like, they take a visit to her mother's grave, you know, and it's interesting because the scene at her mother's grave is immediately followed by them having sex in the car. And that is spliced in with the scene of the kid shooting the cop. And it felt like, you know, Queen was able to kind of open up and deal with her pain. And it was like a climax of her, you know, being able to nurse herself back. Because she said it. She told Slim that she wanted a connection, a partner that will hold her hand while she nurses her scars. And that's kind of what she did. And that's kind of what he did. He nursed her. He held her hand. Like, so it's kind of like she sought support in a way where she could still deal with her stuff, but be supported while she's dealing with her stuff. And then the climax was in the car for them of letting all that go through sex, while the kid never got that. Never got to release all of his stuff and deal with all of his issues and things like that. He just, you know, that was his climax, is I am immortal now. That's where I want to be. You know, so it's interesting how there was an unraveling of trauma for her and for Slim, because he was just kind of there. He was just kind of there supporting her through that, you know? And so that was really, I kind of thought that was interesting. I won't say cool necessarily, but just interesting. And it was spliced in with the kid killing the cop. So it's kind of like, this is the climax of trauma. One gets to heal slightly or is on the road to healing. The other one comes to an end. And that's kind of what it does. It's like you have the side that, you know, takes in their trauma and internalizes it and turns into death, or they turn into a monster, and like the type of people that turn abusive. And then you have the people that will work through their trauma and work through healing and become the better people. So it's really interesting how that was like spliced together. I still don't think the kid should have shot the cop though. Like that was a lot. So anyways, they're shot to death at the end, you know, and I wanted them to live. But anyway, so the guy that got them planes sold them out and got the money, and barely glanced at the TV when he was counting the money. So he barely glanced at the TV when they were talking about how the Queen and Slim were dead. And then, you know, Queen and Slim were immortalized on posters and put up on shirts and all this other stuff and things like that. And it was just kind of like, I just didn't like it. I didn't like the end. I guess I'm just tired. I feel like black people have never been able to just kind of breathe. You know, as soon as we were dragged here during slavery, we hit the ground running. There's slavery. Then there was segregation, the KKK, all that other stuff. Then there was desegregation and the KKK and still. And then there was the CIA pumping drugs into, black neighborhoods. And then it was the war on drugs where most of the black men were arrested because of the drugs that the CIA. There's a movie about it. Got the name of the movie, but there's a movie about it. CIA did pump drugs into black neighborhoods. They did do that. And then the war on drugs where most of the black men were arrested. So black women were kind of forced at some point to do all this stuff by ourselves and become the strong black woman and the angry black woman when really we're just traumatized and tired and lonely and stuff like that. I mean, it's the truth. For a lot of, I'm not gonna say all of us, because some of us, either we were raised in a good family and we didn't have to deal with that as much, unless we went outside and were faced with our blackness from other races. And I say other races because most races look down on us in a certain way based off of, white supremacy and things like that. And then some of us were born into the family of it, had to go outside and deal with it, and then just got, shrunk our souls little by little. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of like we've never had a break. And then in the 2000s, it was just through the media, it was like it's doubling down on colorism, doubling down on classism. It's kind of like we've never had a moment in time where we could just be like, who saw? Every time we tried to do it, it was like shut down. Like during segregation, it was like, okay, we'll be segregated. We started our own little towns. We were making money. Tulsa. Then the Tulsa massacre happened. Like Black Wall Street, just burn it down because they're making more money. They're more successful than us. They're doing better than the white folks around the area. And it's like, okay. So it's like we can't have anything. We can't even have our culture per se, So it's been like, when has there been a moment to take a break? So these movies are exhausting after a while just because I feel like we deserve to have a happy ending sometimes. Oh, there is a movie coming out by Issa Rae called The Photograph. It's a love story. They're my skin color. I'm sorry, but are darker. I think Issa Rae's darker than me. Whatever, I don't care. It's dark skin. She's with a dark skinned man. They look like they're in love. I'm gonna hope and pray they stay together at the end of the movie because it's not fair. I want it to happen, and it won't be triggering, but I hope that will launch off a bunch of other things in the media where we can be seen in an amazing light as dark-skinned women and dark-skinned men and all the other colors of black, too. But it's just a lot. So the movie, it made me cry a little bit. It made me upset, and made me tired. Just thinking about it makes me tired. I just feel tired. Like, I feel like maybe if it wasn't a love story mixed in, I wouldn't be so tired. If it was just kind of like, just take the part out where, she's healing. He's there for her while she heals, and make that into a movie, and then let them end up together and be happy. And make this like two niggas that don't want to fuck each other. Like, make it like that. So that way, they're riding in the car, they're friends, and they're trying to escape. Like, why can't it be like, why did it have to be a love story? I was just tired. It was tiring. So that's why I had to have a sip in order to talk about it. But yeah, I think it was a commentary on black trauma. For me, it was. I'll say for me, it was. I don't know, for other people, it might have been something else, police brutality, all this other stuff. Some things, I feel like the length of the movie was needed because that's how, it takes longer than that, but it needs to be a good length for her to work through her healing. That's what I felt. It needed to be a good length to see all the nuances that she needed to go through in order to heal. And to see that this black man was there for her every step of the way. Like, hey, I'm here. I got you. I'll hold your hand while you're standing over your mother's grave and tell your story. And I have no commentary. I'm just here. Like, I'm just here. Like, I'm just here. And then they just die. And it's fine, And then he was talking about something about her being his legacy and all this other stuff. And it was like, so they have to die after that? Like, you know. And the kid shooting the cop was shocking to me. Because I didn't know why it had to be like that. I guess. I mean, unless he said the words, I'm depressed, a lot of people probably wouldn't have got why he was so fascinated by dying. Because that's what I got from him. I was like, this child is depressed. Nobody's asking him the right questions. Does anybody in this movie get therapy? Have they ever had a session? Because this is horrendous. Like, no one's asking him why he wants to die. They just think he wants to be a martyr for no reason. Like, that's what I got. Like, I felt like they just thought he wanted to be a martyr for no reason. No reason. Just to be a martyr. Just, I want to be immortalized. Just to be immortalized. Just cause. No, he wanted to die. He kept saying it multiple times. He egged the cop on. Like, come on. It wasn't just cause, you know, it wasn't just cause he wanted to be immortalized. There was more behind it. Think through all of that. Like, they like stayed on it for a while, so that's just what I got from it. He had to say it multiple times and he wanted the cop to shoot him. Like, it makes me think of those people that want to have suicide by cops, you know? It's just me, it's just what I think. Don't have to agree. But yeah. I would say it's a good movie if I'm in a better mood, you know. And yeah, that's what it is, you know. With some like corny elements. So like, who gets out the car and gets on a horse when you're on the run? You know, they stop. Who's hanging, like, who's driving through the South and hanging out the car? Like, who does that? Like, who stops the car in the middle of the South, jumps over the fence of somebody else's property and gets on their horse? And it's loud. The uncle's car was like a bright turquoise blue. Excuse me. So, you know, it makes you want, like, but I mean, like, if it was me, I wouldn't have. I'm sorry. I'm not going with you. I'm not going to be a martyr. I'm not dying. I went to 4 years of undergrad, 2 years of master's program, about 3, 4, 5 years. I don't know how long it took for me to get licensed. I'm not throwing all that away because of a tussle you had with the police. We're sitting here and we're laying on the ground with our arms stretched out and we're waiting for the police to come. And whatever happens, I'm not, you know, because the fact that the incident even happened is enough. They didn't have to go on the run. It was recorded. It happened. So they didn't have to go on a run. That would have been enough. That's how I feel. You know, if they was going to die at the end anyways, why couldn't they just say, I'm not, it's not me. You know? And, yeah, I think that's why I'm so into self-care now. Like, I will treat myself. Because I've told myself that if someone doesn't treat me like I treat myself, then I don't need them in my life. You know, whether that's dating, friendships, whatever. I like to travel. I like to go to the spa and get a nice massage. I like to do my skincare. I like to help people. I like to eat. I like to do like nice things for myself. So if I'm not getting that in return, you know, you don't want to do that with me as my friend. You don't want to do that. Cat's in the trash can. If you don't want to do that for me as my man, then, you know, I don't have that energy. I'm not perpetuating black trauma in my personal life if I can stand it. I'm not doing it. I refuse. So, you know, no, I'm not. So that's one person at a time. Whoever sees this video, go to therapy, figure out your trauma. I've been to therapy as a therapist. Going in school, they tell us you have to go to therapy or you'll burn out. So I've been to therapy. You go to therapy, figure out your stuff and start taking care of yourself, and only invite people into your life that, you know, treat you and love you as much as you love yourself, or maybe even more, because sometimes, you know, you got them down days where you just need a little extra. You just need a little extra hug, a little extra support. Like, I had a bad day at work. I'm not at my 90% that I'm usually at. I'm not gonna go to 100 because ain't nobody no perfect 100. No. I'm not at my 90% today. So I need you to like add a little bit of extra spice to my life for right now, because I need the support. You know, so work on yourself, love yourself, and only invite people into your life who love themselves enough to love you like they love themselves. So that means I'm going to only love you as much as I love myself. I'm only going to do things for you that I do for myself. You know, not that they're a second, not that you're like made one or something. That's toxic. But more so, you know, I enjoy, you know, taking myself out to dinner. I'm going to enjoy taking you out to dinner. You know, and vice versa. Do you enjoy going to nice places to eat? Well, you should take me to nice places to eat. Boom. You know, stuff like that. Like, I enjoy listening to people's problems and giving advice and talking to them. Do you enjoy listening to people's problems? Maybe you don't enjoy giving advice, but maybe you'll sit here and listen to me while I complain for a little while, because I listen to you. So, you know, you ain't gotta be like the same type of people. You know, you don't have to be like everything similar and all this other stuff. It's more so just the care that they take with themselves in different areas of their lives. Will they take that same care with you? And if they're not taking care of themselves, like, you know, they don't have a job, like, that's something that you should want to do for you. You know, so why are you trying to be talking to me if you ain't even financially secure in yourself? You know, they don't have good hygiene. Like, don't you itch? Don't you feel unclean? Like, you have a stench. Don't you smell that? Like, you want me to be all up under you while you stink? Like things like that. So that's why I try to embody the care in myself that I would want to give to other people too. You know, I'm not about to end up like Queen and Slim. Nope. I'm not ending up like that. I'm not about to be nobody's martyr. I'm not about to struggle like that. Like, you know, everybody struggles, but I'm not about to struggle to where it's unfixable. It's unworkable. Like, it's one thing if, you know, you got an fender bender, but we got insurance so we can fix the car, versus, you know, you burnt the house down because you was cooking crack in the basement. Like, you know, I'm not going through that. You know, not saying that those characters are doing any of those things, but I'm not going on the run with you and going to jail. Who shot the cop? Who shot you? You shot the cop. I mean, I don't know if I would point fingers, but I would just sit there silently, because I know there's the camera on the car. They saw what happened. You know, he needs to get a good lawyer. That's like, what? Let me turn this off. Okay, that's it for this evening. I hope I didn't say anything to, you know, I don't care. You know what? Nobody watches these really anyways. And if they do, I hope I'm helpful in a way to all the people. And I hope everyone has a good Monday tomorrow back at work. And don't be like Queen and Slim. You don't have to be a martyr to send a message. Okay. Take one more sip. And as the great Tino from The Weekender says, later days.